Hello everyone, welcome to the Inverness Club kitchen. Today we're going to prepare for you some nice beef short ribs and some heirloom polenta. I'd like to first talk about the beef that you can procure at your local grocery store. These are 10-ounce beef short rib portions. These are choice grade. We do have some nice intermuscular fat that is lending the nice moisture to the beef at the end of the cooking process. You can tell that I have the beef on a paper towel, and the idea is to dry off the outer portion of the beef. We do not want moisture on the outside of the beef. This is going to inhibit our browning. We have our pan preheating just over medium heat. This is medium high. We're just going to add a little bit of oil to the pan. So it's important to preheat our pan. We want to preheat our pan first and then add our fat or our oil to the pan. And we can see we have a nice shimmering of the fat, so we know that we're nice and hot. Again, we have not seasoned our beef yet. The salt will actually pull moisture from the beef and inhibit that browning that we're really going for. So here I'm using an induction cooktop, which works well with stainless steel as well as cast iron. Now you hear some people say, do not move the meat while you are searing. I don't necessarily agree with that. With this pan, we obviously have our 2 pieces of beef, which I probably would not push it any further than 2 pieces of beef to this pan. We do not want to overcrowd our pan, because then we sap all the heat from the underside of the pan, from this nice conductive material, and we'll start to see water leach out into the pan. If ever you're searing beef and you see water coming into the middle, you're not getting browning, the beef is turning gray instead of brown, your pan is overcrowded. So we want to allow the beef to have room. We're getting a nice deep caramel color on the beef. I'm actually going to move it to a different part of the pan. And another thing about moving it to a different spot of the pan is that the parts where the beef were not sitting is obviously hotter than where the beef was sitting. We really want that nice deep brown color on all sides. This is one step you do not want to skimp. So traditionally, after we sear this beef, we would maybe put it into a roasting pan with vegetables, lots of aromatics, maybe some fresh herbs. We're taking a slightly different cooking technique for this. We are going to use an immersion circulator, and we are going to cook these short ribs sous vide. Sous vide is a cooking technique using an immersion circulator, and what that circulator does is it keeps the water at a specific temperature, and then we use that temperature to cook over a specific amount of time. So this beef we are cooking at 176 degrees for 16 hours. So we are most of the way there with our beef, and I'm going to use these different parts of the pan to really speed up these last couple of sides. Don't be afraid to use the side of your pan for these taller sides. Let the beef lean against the side. It'll keep it nice and stable. Okay, now that we have our nice golden color all the way around, I'm going to go ahead and remove it from the pan, just onto this piece of paper towel. And at this point, we're going to season. We're going to season our beef. We're not worried about taking any moisture out of the beef at this point because we've achieved what we set out to do. We've got our nice golden brown color, and then we're getting ready to package. So I prefer diamond kosher salt. And I prefer this salt because it coats very evenly. It tends to not bounce off the meat too much, and it's just fine enough to where we can get a nice, even coating of salt on the beef. Now, I understand that this looks like quite a bit of salt, but we're aiming for about 1% of the total weight of the beef, and I found that that is a very middle-of-the-road seasoning for most people. Also consider that this piece of beef is relatively thick, so for the salt to penetrate that protein, you need quite a bit on the outside. So for the sous vide cooking, we're just going to open our bag. We'll take our nice seasoned beef. We're going to position them in the bag. And then we need to add a little bit of canola oil. We use strictly canola oil. For sous vide cooking, you definitely want to use something very neutral. Canola or grapeseed oil is preferred. Olive oil is great if you love the taste of olive oil. You could use a blended oil. My recommendation is to not use straight extra virgin olive oil, especially a very good quality olive oil. If you heat it, it tends to go bitter and it loses a lot of those really nice notes that good olive oil is known for. So a nice neutral oil into the bag with the beef. And it's about a half a cup of oil. And what this oil is going to do is it's going to surround the beef once we put it into the water. Some displacement is going to take effect, and it's going to squeeze the oil around the beef. The oil is going to help conduct the heat around the beef and transmit it to the beef more evenly. This should be heavy enough to go ahead and sink in the water all on its own. Sometimes it's not. In that case, what we do is we'll take a few spoons, maybe some butter knives, whatever we have, and we'll put them in the bag with the beef so that when we lower it into the water, it will stay submerged. We'll just grab a clip and onto the bag. For this, we are waiting 16 hours to have a finished product in an oven. With aromatics and vegetables, this would probably take closer to 2.5, maybe 3 hours, depending on the size of the short rib that you may have. All right, on to the polenta. So there are many different types of polenta you can buy in the store. Many of them are mass manufactured, mass produced, and they're fine. You know, if you grew up with Aunt Jemima's and you prefer that, by all means, go for it. This particular polenta is from South Carolina, and it is from a company called Anson Mills. So what we've procured from them is a nice medium fine ground corn or polenta that we prefer to use. So we're going to start this off in a pan, a cold pan, in fact. So a lot of people will cook polenta with water, and we prefer milk. Milk brings a little bit more to the table as far as flavor is concerned. And we're going to start over a nice medium high heat. And we're actually going to do a process which is called shearing the polenta into the milk. A lot of times you will see recipes for polenta and it says to bring the liquid to a full boil and then shake the polenta into the water as you're whisking vigorously to avoid lumps. This particular polenta, I like to start cold, in cold milk. And this allows me to work out all of my lumps before any of those starches come up to temperature and really start to take hold. And we want to continuously stir this until that starch starts to absorb that liquid. And that will happen when it approaches simmering temperature. You notice I haven't seasoned this yet. We will receive some reduction in the liquid through the cooking process as the steam comes off. So we want to be careful not to concentrate our salt. If we were to add salt now and this liquid were to reduce, it's going to concentrate that salt flavor, and we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that it's perfectly seasoned. Okay, we're really starting to thicken now. The corn is becoming suspended in the milk. And this is where we just want to be diligent to make sure that we don't have any lumps. And once it comes up to a simmer, we're going to switch to a rubber spatula. We'll no longer need this whisk. So the ratio for this polenta is 3.5 to 1. So 1 part polenta, 3.5 parts milk. Something else we're going to add to this polenta is a Parmesan rind. Now we buy quarter wheels of Parmesan cheese here at the club, and we'll take the outside of the rind off of the cheese and we'll actually save it. And we'll put this in things like risotto, tomato sauce, in this case polenta. So this adds a nice Parmesan cheese flavor without actually adding a bunch of grated or ground Parmesan. So this polenta will wind up cooking for about 45 minutes until it's completely done. Okay, so now I'm really going to reduce my temperature here down to low heat. And I can switch to my rubber spatula. This is also going to ensure that I don't break up that Parmesan rind too much. We will fish it out at the end. It is not something we are actually going to eat. We're just using it as a flavoring component. So at this point, we can step away from it. We can come back every 2 to 3 minutes and give this a nice stir, just to make sure that it's not sticking to the bottom of the pan. 45 minutes has passed, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to season with our kosher salts. And then I'm also going to add just a couple pats of butter here at the end. So this is ideal for just before serving. And this adds just another level of richness to the polenta. Okay, and there's the butter completely emulsified in our nice creamy polenta. Well, let's assemble these two components. Okay, so let's start with our short rib. And these short ribs, again, have been cooking for 16 hours. You can see that they've given up a little additional liquid that has also mixed with the oil. That's okay, we're going to pour this off. You could strain off the oil from the cooking liquid and incorporate this into a final sauce should you wish to do so. Okay, so I'm going to remove this spoon first that helped weigh our product down. Just going to pour off this liquid just to make things a little neater for presentation. I will roll the sides of the bag down. We want to be very careful because these are super tender. I just want to drain them on a cloth just momentarily. And I am going to season this beef just one more time before we plate. Now I think this short rib is perfectly good all on its own without a sauce, but we will be doing a pan sauce for the presentation that you folks will be having at home, and that sauce will be a reduction of red wine with lots of aromatics, onions, garlic, a few mushrooms, thyme, rosemary, a few bay leaves as well. And we'll reduce that red wine very heavily to almost a syrup consistency. And then we'll add that to our veal demi-glace, which is a rich reduction of veal stock, along with some other aromatics, and that will nicely dress this piece of beef. Okay? So back to our polenta that has finished cooking. We've mounted it with our butter, we've adjusted the seasoning with the salt, and we have also fished out that piece of Parmesan rind that was still intact, one whole piece, in the bottom of the pan. So to finish or plate, we would just take our nice soft polenta, just slightly off-centered to the plate. Our nice seasoned, cooked, braised short rib. I'm going to dress this with just a touch of extra virgin olive oil. Give it that nice extra sheen. And we'll finish with just a few microgreens. And that is our braised beef short rib, heirloom polenta.